Hi guys, I welcome you all to the session. In this particular topic, we'll understand what is continuous integration, introduction to Jenkins, Maven installation, POM, and then we don't have a practical example of Maven as such. Then we have Maven project execution, then Jenkins security management, and there are so many things. What will happen after this? You will have an understanding of what is a continuous integration and how it works and how Jenkins and slaves works and everything, then how a declarative pipeline works. So I want you all to open your virtual machine that you have installed. Virtual machines ready? So I want you all to go to your Firefox browser that is on the virtual machines already. And then there is a link that is localhost 8080. Your username and password must be Edureka, and both of them are same, Edureka and Edureka. Then you sign in. So if you are logging in for the first time, I think you won't be having all these options. So this is Jenkins. Everyone say hello to Jenkins. And what is Jenkins? Now let me just give you a high level of understanding of what we are actually doing here. So what do we have here is we have some requirement, and what happens after requirement is we do requirement analysis and then we do code. Once we do the code, we do the test. This test will actually release the test, will actually release the code. This will go to a test environment, and then what we do is we'll deploy this, right? Yeah, release. So deploy on test environment, then there is deploy on staging, deploy on production. So in between, what happened is completed testing. Yes. So before final release, there will be consequently some more releases that will do. So similarly, we will just deploy and then we will test on test environment. Similarly, we'll do the same on staging and then test on production. So this is an overall how our project is actually going to work. And as small brief about staging. Staging is a staging server. It is a small server, which is staging is a small server that will be better than the test environment, and it is closer away of a production environment. It is not completely the same environment as production. It is something near to the staging. The staging in UAT, not in UAT. Okay, we won't go into manual testing methodology altogether. We are just taking an staging server. So say for an example, this is a staging server. So we have code. So this is our entire application. So in here, we have a few things in Jenkins. Firstly, you have to understand that if we are taking that example of Edureka, wherein you have an LMS, in LMS you can log in and then do many things. In traditional integration system, the traditional integration system that we have is will have a release date which will be deployed manually, and there will be a proper release date at maybe after 15 days or 20 days, bi-weekly sprint or maybe a monthly sprint, and then it will be done there. Now what happened in that case is if you have deployed that after a 15 days, it is very hard to get the changes done, or there could be some conflicts, there could be some situation that it is failing, and if it is failing, it is revoking it back and then working again on it and deploying it again used to take a lot of time. So that was a traditional integration process. And if you see this graph, more the time gap is there, more the risk is there. And what happened is at the end of the project, there will be very less time, and the project has already burned out all the resources, all the time, and you are always in a chaotic situation. Then you have to wait throughout the night and work, and then there are developers who are continuously coding, that they are giving you different builds, and then they are doing multiple releases at the same time, and you are sitting throughout the night and doing the test. So all those pain that you must have seen. What other problems that we face is, as this particular developer is telling, that what happened to the last version of API, always there is problem with the version control in that case. So why am I getting the latest version at last time? I'll give you a small example. So I was working with a team of 120 developers. For every 4 developers there was one QA, and I was in the deployment DevOps. So what happened in this particular case was, at every day at 4 p.m. I used to send a message that I'm taking the build. I used to send a message that please commit your code. We are releasing a build. Now this particular project was for Medicare US, and they have different state rules for New Jersey and different state rules for New York. And the code base was same. That is, everything will come in the same folder. If I'm taking the latest, we used to use Tortoise SVN. Now, for whom you don't know what is Tortoise SVN, it is just another version control system like Git. So this was a version control system which we actually used. And in that case, what happened was I used to float a message throughout 120 developers that please commit your code and we are releasing a build. So what will happen is by 4:30, I will get all the changes. Changes are committed. But what happened that there were few developers who are still working on that particular code. So has please wait for 2 minutes. I have something to commit, and they committed something and then they started testing. And what happened was I had to wait. So many a times I had to wait till 5. So I am already being late for half an hour. Now my lead used to start blasting. Now, in that case, what happened was one day I got all the changes. So I did a complete build. So there were two things. You either do a complete build or you can do a patch. What was a patch was, it was some changes which was not related to the DLL. Now, what are these? I'll tell you. That was a 3-tier architecture in a .NET. So if there are functional change, those will go in DLL. If there are any cosmetic change, that will go in ASPX files. So those were the architecture that we used to follow. So patch is something in which there are not many changes. So that will be like some file upload, one DLL change, something like that. But in a complete build, what we have to do is we'll upload the entire project, and that used to do via FTP. And one fine day, what I did was there was one developer who committed at the last end at 4:45, and I took the complete build. And what this guy did was he committed the New Jersey changes in New York code. Now, all the calculations that used to happen for Medicare insurances for New Jersey was completely gone. I mean, it was busted. And we were not even in a situation until and unless client actually calculated some billing system for one of their client, and we got busted so badly that for next 2 days we had to sit in the office reverting back all the changes without actually going home. And that was one small change, and we understood that this thing happened after 2 days, that this was one small change that should not have been done. So that was the traceability, and I'm telling you the situation of, I suppose, 2009, 10 years back. We were having this kind of problems, and I was working with a CMM level 3 company, by the way. So those were the problems. I used to get the build at the last moment. All implemented changes, details has changed. So implementation details already changed at the last moment. I was not the developer, but this problem again comes that do I need to write the code again? How will I escalate the project? Like I told you the example. So I used to go through all these problems that were there. So in this slides that we have created, now this guy is actually telling us an idea that how we can actually do continuous integration. Now what is continuous integration altogether? We'll try to understand. So here the developer does not know how should I start following continuous integration process during the development of my code. So he says, don't worry, I have an experience. So he gives the solution. So the solution that he gave, that he told to first part is split the entire chunk of code into segments. That was the first thing that he gave a suggestion. Keep small segments of manageable code. Integrate the segments of code in multiple times a day. Adopt a continuous integration methodology to coordinate with your team. So these are the 4 steps that actually he gave an idea to him. In this case, what we'll do is, say for an example, for the discussion purpose, we will take Edureka. So Edureka have login. So login is not only one thing. It is not username password. what we'll do in this case is I will have a process. In my process, what it will do is if anything changes for admin code, test login for admin. So I have this simple if else kind of conditions if anything changes for trainer, test, trainer login. And in this particular case, we have integrated the segment code multiple times a day. So whenever there would be something which happened in one piece of code, there has to be one test that has to run. And then we will adopt this method in a continuous integration methodology. And this is the solution that has been given to Dave. So it seems that the problem will be solved. So he is very confident about it. So what is continuous integration altogether? It is the process of automating the build and testing of the code each time one of the team member commits the change to the version control system. So you can configure it on the basis of your preferences. It is not something like every time there is a commit and every time there will be a test that will. It is not so. It is preferable. It is depending on you. How do you want to configure that? So that is what we were talking about. There is a greater time gap in case of traditional integration, which is the legacy system, and a relatively greater risk that we already discussed. In continuous integration, what is happening is, so there are developers who are committing the code, and here, then there's a point where there will be a test that will run. So there are no changes after that. But after that, again, there are changes, then again, no changes. So this is a continuous process, and what happen in that case is you will always have a tested code prior to this point of time. And in that case, it will help you to reduce the risk altogether for the project that you are in. This was all about continuous integration. So it will be a continuous process that there will be build and then it will continue. And in that case, what will happen is there is very small time and there is always update that is actually going. So that is very helpful for and very healthy for your project also. So importance of continuous integration. Continuous integration actually improves the quality by running multiple unit tests and analyze various statistical codes. It increases the productivity. Automating build of code saves a lot time and thereby increases productivity. And it reduces risk, eliminates the risk of potential human error by automating tests. So these are three significant important you will observe when we'll actually do that. While talking about this, there are few other tools in the market like GitLab CI, there is CodeShip, there is Bamboo. Bamboo is Atlassian's product and it is very compatible with Jira. Jenkins is something that we are talking about. TeamCity, then there is Travis CI. So these all tools are there in market and those are very popular tools. Whereas when we talk regarding Jenkins, Jenkins is the most popular of all of them. And why? Because of many reasons that we'll see in this particular slides. Which all the companies are using Jenkins are AT&T, JP Morgan, Cisco, Capital One, Comcast, and Martin. So there are so many other companies who are using this. And there is a huge job opportunity for people who have good command on Jenkins because Jenkins is an open source application. If you are not very much familiar with installation or configuration, I will suggest you something that is called Bitnami. Bitnami is a packaged application for any application that is open source. Most of the time what happens is many open source applications are really very hard to get configured. And as a Windows user, we have a habit of doing something that is next. And in that case, Bitnami is not working at my end. So you can go Bitnami Jenkins, Linux install or Windows install. So it will directly give you an exe file, and in that exe file, it will be very helpful for you to install it. Jenkins is very easy to install as per the slides that we will have. So let's introduce ourselves with Jenkins. Jenkins, as I told you, it is an open source. It has all this process that is plan, code, build, test, deploy, operate, and monitor. So everything can be done in Jenkins. And it is a continuous integration server which manages the control process such as plan, code, build, deploy, operate, and everything. So it gives you an DevOps environment. So why Jenkins is so popular? Why Jenkins is so popular? It is an open source. It has n number of plugins that are available for you. It has a good community support. So whenever you choose any open source tool, guys, it is always recommended to see a community that is actually supporting it. It is fast and reliable. It is a good OS support, and it is scripted builds. So these all are those things that makes it so popular. What are the features of Jenkins? Jenkins is easy installation process. Then you can upgrade very easily, provide advanced security, lightweight container support. For understanding container support, you should give a try with the Edureka's cloud engineering, basics of cloud engineering. So you'll understand what is container, Dockers, and everything else. These are actually environment which are currently available in market. Optimized performance and distributed team management. All these features are of Jenkins. So what are the bigger picture? Role of Jenkins in DevOps. So you can commit, you can build, test, stage, DevOps, develop, QA, and then there's a continuous integration and delivery system. So you have code are commits in the Git, and there is Jenkins which is in the picture, and this is your cycle that will actually happen. And it finally goes to, the funnel goes to your production environment. So what is the basic architecture altogether? As you can see on my screen, this is Jenkins, and in Jenkins I do have installed few plugins already. So what you can do is you can go in manage Jenkins, and in manage Jenkins scroll a little down. Now you can see that it is actually giving me an alert that all these things are available for the updates. So you can see here, you can click on manage plugins, and in manage plugins you can search for available plugins, and those plugins could be delivery pipeline plugin. So now it is, because I have already installed it, it will appear in my installed tab, and in your tab it will appear on the available tab. This is the one. Similarly, there could be other plugins that you may need to install. In that case, you can, for the sake of this example, what I'll do is I'll just show you any of a plugin, and say MS Build is for visual. So I click on this. It will actually either go to the Jenkins plugin. I don't want to go here. It should give me an option of installing it directly. So can you see that there is an install without restart, download and install after restart. So if I click on this, what it will do is it will download, and then if I click on this, it will restart after that this particular plugin is being installed on my Jenkins instance that I have. So it is very simple. You can go and you will understand what are those things that I will actually need. As you can see, as I have did the restart button, it will, please wait, the Jenkins is restarting. Your browser will reload automatically when Jenkins is ready. So that will actually how Jenkins will operate. So you have any plugin that you need, it is available there, and you can go ahead and install it. So there is an error from my side, and that is, as I am on a Linux system, the MS Build is not compatible with me, and that's why it was giving me an error. So let me ignore that. That was just an example. So I have my VM that is running now. Hopefully it will run faster. Manage Jenkins is saying to upgrade this thing. Now one thing understood that how we can install some plugin, and now click on new item. That is a new job. So a new job is, say for example, we will have the job as test, and it is a freestyle project. You just click on a freestyle project and click on OK. It will take you to a detail screen, and it is still taking time. In the configuration screen, you just go a bit down, and then we'll just say execute shell. Go in the build section, go in the execute shell, type in here date and enter echo, and this is step 1, which is test. You can write any comment and there is a simple syntax in the codes, nothing else, apply and save. So what I did was I went to Jenkins, I created a new job, and that job name was test script. Inside that, I went inside the build, and in build I wrote the command that is echo and a simple comment. I'll create another task now. Now, what is this task name? Say I have deploy on. So I am not keeping any gaps. Deploy test build. This is again a freestyle one. Click OK. So we'll go back to the dashboard now and let me add new steps. So let me do a deployment on production now. So simple step, I'm doing a production deployment. This is again a freestyle project, and again I come to the config part and I said in the build again added a step. Now can you see this? In this case there are some other things also. There are conditions single, there are Visual Studio project or solution using MS Build, there are conditional steps, there are window batch commands, there is a shell file, there is an and, there is a Gradle script, there is a Maven, then there is run without timeout, set build. So these all options are there. You can go inside each of the option and understand what exactly it does, like execute shell. This is the smallest example that we are taking. And in that, I'm just writing echo and it says that production deployment done. Apply and save. Now you go in Jenkins dashboard. So there are these three things we created. One was the test script. I'll open it in a new tab. Then there is test build. Then there is test on production. I'm opening this three in three different tabs just for the explanation. So I go to test script, and can you see that there is a build now button? So if you click on the build now button, what it will do is it will show you that there is an output, and that output shows success, which is a blue color. If you click on the drop down arrow, there is a console output. If you click on this console output, it will show you the console output, which is, so we wrote in the echo that this is the step one, which is test, and it was executed properly. It gave me a success message. Similarly, if you go to deploy test build step and I click on build now, so it is doing the same. I can go in the console and see that it has given me build is deployed on test environment, and then there is a success message for this. Similarly, I go on the production environment and I click on the build now, and the console output is actually telling me that the production deployment build is done and it is successfully done. Now, having said that, as you can see, I can have source code management and everything. And what I want to do is I want to chain this. What I want to do is I want step 2 happen when step 1 is done or passed. Step 3 will be done if step 2 passed. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to achieve this. In this case, we just took a small example. So step 1 is test script. We don't need anything that is after that. But in step 2, we will go in the configuration, that is deploy test build or whatsoever name you have written. You can go inside that, and once it loads, so you will see there's a tab that is called build trigger. So this step will build after other project are built. So let me write down the name, that is test. So can you see it shows me in autocomplete, that is test script. So you can put a comma separated multiple steps inside this, but for the sake of this example, I'm just taking one, which is test script. So build after other projects are done. Then apply and save. Similarly, I will go in the tab that is deploy on production. I'll go in configuration. Once I go in the configuration, I'll go in the build trigger. In the build trigger, I'm clicking on the option that is build after other project is built, and then I say deploy test build. So this is the step, apply and save. Now what I'll do is I'll go to test number 1. There was no test script, I mean step number 1, which was test script. There were no changes in this, and I'll just click on build now. So can you see there is this step number 2 which was already there. Can you see there is a pending, finished, waiting, and it finished, and then now I go here. There are 3 steps which are automatically being done. So script, this is the tab project test script. Can you see this? And I am clicking on build now. So it shows me a step number 3 here. Now here there is step number 3 again, which is actually going in progress, and it is done. Now in here we'll see there is a step number 3 again. So what happened was, in this case, the test script, once it was executed, it executed the next step and then the next step. This is basically the series of jobs that we are actually commanding Jenkins to actually execute it with different steps. Now let me go back here and create a new item, and I will say that I'll click on that is Edureka. So I'm just creating a new item, and then there is a pipeline. So pipeline orchestrates long-running activity that can span multiple build agent suitable for building pipeline, formerly known as workflow. So this is pipeline. So I created a new item that was Edureka, then the type is pipeline. I click on OK. So in this case, I'm just taking build after other project are built, and that is test script. So I'm just putting this test script and apply and save, and that's it. So let me now click on build now. So it gives me that message that the stage view, it has completed start and end of the pipeline. You can see that. Now let me go back and see, do I have a full stage view? See what I did. The next step I want you all to do is, I want you all to create a new item. The new item is, name it anything that you want. We created a pipeline. Then we had to create a build view. So what we'll do is, we'll go to Jenkins, and then do you see a tab here, a new view? And in here, you click this tab, it will create a view for you. So what we are viewing here is a delivery pipeline. Let's say this is a test, just for the sake of example. And when I click OK, I can scroll down and see in the pipeline a component. What component do I want to see? I want to see test script, which was my first step. So I clicked on this, and then I applied, and then I clicked OK. So now it will show me all the test, all the times this particular pipeline has ran. It is actually showing me. Now the next thing what I want you to do is, I want you to edit this view, the view that we created, edit this view and scroll down and see that enable start new pipeline build. There is a checkbox, click on that, click apply and click OK. So you will see a button now here which says build now. So if I click build now, what it will do is, can you see the first one is done, the second one is done, it is doing the third step, and done. The next thing I want you to do is, you can also click on enable rebuild. So if you check on this and click apply, click OK, now you will see the next thing, that is on each of the step there is this button which is enabled. Prior it was not there. Why we are doing this is, could be a situation that the build failed on test. So there could be multiple such steps. So I can click on any one of them and I don't have to execute this one. See, automatically it actually triggered the next step. You don't have to do it manually for this. In edit view, there's an option of static analysis view. What is that? In edit view, what all are the static analysis views, static analysis tools? So there are static analysis tools, like you can see what is the code quality. So there are plugins which are available. What are these plugins available? Maybe it could be for Python code, it could be for PHP code. So there is a Spring Dot. So you can see that there are plugins which will check the style, dry, find bug, PMD, Android lint, multiple things. So what it will do is, once you get the latest code, it will run static analysis and then give you a score. So here we have the build view, and now you can actually execute it, and you can see all these things that you can want to do. So you can create multiple things. Like I created one example for you. I was not sure if that was working. But what I did was I created a small step called Hello Edureka, and I configured it with Git. The Git was getting connected, but the code was not proper, what I had in my source code management thing. So my source code management is taking something which is edureka.git, and it is getting my credentials. After that, I'm executing this command. And what is in my code? Let me show you what is in my code. My code is very simple. It is a hello world kind of program, right? So edureka, nothing else. So that is what I'm actually doing. In that case, I'll just try to build it. So all the steps pass, and with the visualization or the build view technique that you get, you will actually see that each of the step has been passed. So what are plugin managements? As we have seen that you can actually add more plugins. So you can update the plugins, you can see available plugins, you can see installed plugin, and you can do advanced settings with your plugins. So these all things, yeah, that you can do. We have already seen this by installing delivery pipeline plugin. So these are the types of projects or jobs that we saw. Freestyle we added pipeline. Similarly, you can add these types of folders, then Git and everything else. Let's now get ourselves introduced to Maven. So what is Maven? Maven is a tool that is used to compile and validate code and analyze the test cases in the code. So manage the build report documents from SCM. Now, if you see in your VirtualBox that you have, it already have Maven installed. That's why you did not get any issue while executing those cases. But Maven actually runs on the POM, that is the Project Object Management Protocol. It is basically, it will give you all these features, that it will keep information of the project, and it will give you a build process to manage, and it will give you the data to manage, and deploy the artifact from particular code, and it will compile and do everything for you. So basically Jenkins and Maven goes hand in hand. In many cases, you will also have Gradle that will work with you, but Maven is mostly used. So Maven is, again, if you see Google Analytics, it is at very top. Now it makes the build process easier, provides uniform build system, gives quality project, and provides guideline for the best practices of the development. Allows transparent migration to new feature. So whenever you have the next feature release, it will give you an facility. So how does it work? It is actually working in the same way as in Jenkins. You have your local repository, then there is a core engine, and then those plugins are there which you can use and do the test, and there is the remote repository where the code will go. This is exactly what we already saw. Maven artifacts. An artifact is a file resulting from packaging a project, can be jar file, war file, ER file, XML, for example. Then everything can be deployed. So Maven actually takes the build, compile it, and then deploy it. So simply it will take it from the repository and from the developer, and then put it on the remote repository. First, second, third, and then fourth. So it will go again from the local repository, and it will keeping the latest version both on the server as well as on the developer's machine. So you won't ever get that issue from the developer saying that are you working on the correct code, if they have configured Maven properly. And if you see, those are the same thing that we saw in the version control. There is a local, there is a centralized, and there is a remote repository. That is all the three types of Maven repository are there, and we already have that in the Jenkins that is installed. See, as I was telling you that you have your developer, and they are frequently committing your code on the source code repository, which goes into the build and deployment mechanism. Those are frequent releases. And then there comes the Maven part, which will compile and configure the things, and then it will get all the things from Git on Jenkins. Then it will get your current job done, build goal, and post build actions. all these things it will take care. So Jenkins management, securing Jenkins, and let's see. So we have a global config element. Let's go back to our VM. One can manage Jenkins security level of environment and project through Jenkins security. Where are you, Jenkins? Let me go inside. Where do I see this? That will go in manage Jenkins. So you need to go back to your dashboard, and once you do that, you'll see manage Jenkins, configure global security. So I'm clicking on this. So these are all things that you can, so you can log in with any user can do anything, or you can allow a particular user to only do a specific thing that you all can manage from here. Let's see what we need to do according to Edureka's content. So authorization. This is the least secure setup, allowing any user to perform any operation on Jenkins server. Even in your case, it must be having login user can do anything. Any user can do anything is not something that we all want to do. We have LDAP, which will help us to understand Lightweight Directory Protocol, which can do kind of the Windows authentication and everything will work here. So you can set that from here. Note, avoid using this type. Okay, but I will never do that. This authorization uses existing projects. So let's see, legacy mode. If you have admin role, you will grant the full access over the control. If you have other users that are you added, so that is basically how it works. So there is login user has the access to do anything, and that is authorized. There is a mixed matrix based. Now what is a mixed matrix based? In this you will see, so very nice screen that they have given. You can add a user group and give them access to a particular activity that they can do or not do on a particular scale. And the next is the project based matrix. That is, you can specify for a particular project how you want to give the strategy, because at many particular point of time many projects are such that you have to give different roles to different people. Like in many cases a developer is allowed to deploy, in many cases a developer is not allowed to deploy until he gets a green signal from the QA team. So auditing with Jenkins, auditing in Jenkins is manage Jenkins, manage plugin, go to available, install the audit trial plugin. Let's try to do that. Let's see what is audit plugin. I'll go to manage Jenkins and then go to plugin. Once we do that, let's try to search audit plugin, right? And let me do audit. What does it say? Audit trial plugin. So what does it do? Keep a log of who perform particular Jenkins operation, such as config job and everything. Okay. As for now, there is only one user that I'm using. So it won't make any sense because it will only show logs of everything that I have did. Let's configure that for the understanding. Pending, 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 pending. So it says you can create a log file with particular timestamp and everything, and it will be saved at a particular location. It will save all the logs that you need to have. Then you can open the Jenkins logs via this particular command. It will go in the VirtualBox, lib Jenkins, and you can see the audit logs. It's very important because many times it goes like there is someone doing something on the main jobs and you are not getting what you want, the correct result. Notifications. So there is an email extension plugin, and this is really very important because I want something whenever there is a build that is executed, I want something that will help me to understand if everything went right or wrong. You can configure an email plugin. Jenkins has email plugin. Plugin enables Jenkins to send the email to developer to inform about the job. In that, you need to set up your SMTP, your username, password, SMTP port, and that you will get either from the Gmail or anything. You can manage the Jenkins send mail to the plain text format. Subject in the mail is set as default, but you can change it format in which Jenkins will send an email. So it will give you a project name, build name that is given here, and then it will check the base build URL that is being deployed. post action. In that case, in post action, see, this was where you created your job, no? So if you remember, when we created the new item and when we created the new job and we went to the build tab and we wrote the shell script, just beneath that particular option, there is a post build action. And in the post build action, you can set the email address where you wanted to send the information to, the recipient number, recipient names, it will actually go to that particular recipient. So let's see that. So if you go here, actually create one, then maybe a freestyle one. See, there is the last tab which says post build actions, and in here you can actually get email notification. You can add all those names where you want that, and what it will do is it will send an email. Adding slave node to Jenkins. So what is slave node basically? Jenkins master performs basic installation and handle tasks related to build and configuration. So they schedule build, they monitor slaves, record and present the build rest. So this is all what a master does in Jenkins. What is a slave? Slave is a setup of offload build for the master distributing the workload. They listen to the master request. Slave can run on varieties of operating system. They mainly execute build job which are dispatched in Jenkins master. So it is simple. I can show you, but it won't work because the system that we have is for a single virtual machine. A master slave architecture will work in only the case where there are multiple servers. I can create, but it will be an offline mode. So these are executors. They will execute something which I have given the command on the master. What it will do is, see, you can add the host name. There will be a different host name altogether. So if you are on cloud or anything, you can add that and it will create the slave on that particular cloud. Why do we need this? Because there will be multiple build mechanism that will run and that will run on slave. This is how it will work. Jenkins master will distribute its workload to the slave, and slaves are generally required to provide a desired environment. So the master will give all these commands to different things. Like it will tell this to build, it will tell this to test, tell this to monitor. It will do something like that. How to set up slave on Jenkins? So you have the demo that is there, but it won't work because we have a single virtual machine. Build delivery pipeline, we have already seen that. Build a job, specify a Git repository, link a pull to the Git, specify previous job and trigger the job, specify this, and then do the next job. Post build actions. So what is continuous delivery pipeline? We have already seen this pipeline. We have created this pipeline ourselves. We have seen the visualization of this pipeline. It enables us to constant flow of the change into the production via automated software production line. A typical continuous delivery pipeline includes build automation, continuous integration, test automation, and deployment automation. So those are the 4 steps that are actually required in the continuous delivery pipeline. So what it will do is it will automatically take the latest code from your Git repositories, whatsoever was committed last night, whatsoever time you are deciding. It will generate a build, it will automate that build and put on multiple servers or whatsoever servers you have, and then it will keep on continuously integrating that. It will also keep on testing the same and then deploying the same on different automation process. The next thing is, so we have Jenkins build pipeline. We already have done that. Examples of delivery pipeline. It is a simple example. Create a simple delivery pipeline that has hello world application, compile and QA test. We did this. We tried this with the shell script. Example of a delivery pipeline that test, release, deploy on test, deploy on production, pre-production on everything. This was staging. Create a build pipeline, create and build a pipeline. We already did that in the demo. Let's try to understand this delivery pipeline for our project. So developers compile the code, pull from GitHub. So he puts that. Now in the second step, developer code review. So code review can be done via static analysis tool. It can also be done manually. There are a number of ways how a code review can be done. So code review, the compiled code to check whether the code meets the organization standards. The third step is QA unit test code. Perform unit test cases using JUnit plugin. So you can do that. Then there is a QA matrix check. Calculate the percentage of code assessed by testing by using Cobertura plugin. Okay, I haven't used it. Let's see. What is that? The Maven plugin. It generates reports. We used to do HTML ourselves, no? So that's why I haven't used this. But Cobertura plugin will actually generate HTML reports for your test. Install and then publish, and there is coverage XML. See, there's POM and then version. Then the next thing is prepare the packaged code that can be deployed on any machine, then deploy it on the path. So that is the basic pipeline that we are planning to do. So each of those steps would be a job in Jenkins. Yes, apparently completely it can be done in Jenkins. Create a pipeline build view. We have did this already. So you can create a pipeline view and just add the first job that we saw, standard pipeline card. After seeing the initial job, configuration it accordingly and it runs automatically. So we have seen all the options, like yellow block represents the current executed job, blue represents the job which are waiting. Those color codes can be added, red blocks and everything. After clicking on the view that is created, you can run a pipeline and build it. So you can see that we have seen this, we have created this. So this is a very happy guy. He says that it is running properly. Pipeline as a code. So pipeline as a code provides a functionality like defining the pipeline flow into source code. So suspend or resume execution job. Now in many cases, what you can do is, so you can create the declarative pipeline by typing in code like this. In the example, there is a Groovy script which you should be trying on your own, that you can add and run for one of the project that is already created by Edureka. So that is in the demo scripts. You can download that and try it yourself. So you can create a simple step that stage this is this, then there are steps, then these are next steps, and then there is deploy. So declarative pipeline is something what we saw manually. We created manually by clicking some steps. The same thing can be written in a script. So that is what a declarative pipeline is all about. So talking about Jenkins pipeline stage view. So in Jenkins pipeline stage view, we will get the visualization as we have, and that will actually give the entire screenshot. So what this does is there will be multiple nodes which will have all the commands that you are putting. A node blocks the Jenkins agents, whether stage block, and that will be once you have the nodes that is configured. The next step is the stages. Stage block is the bundle of closing related steps and directives that have a common objective. So those will be the stages, and you can create the scripts yourself. Thank you so much. Take care.